Hi, and welcome to the Sunday School Breakdown. I'm your host, Wilman Murphy, and I'm a Sunday School teacher here at the St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church. And we can be found at 2870 Hetland Drive, East Point, Georgia, 30344. Our senior pastor, that's the Reverend Dr. Clayton Eugene Taylor Sr. And our co-pastor, well, that's the Reverend Christopher E. Taylor Sr. And I bring you greetings and good tidings from the St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church family. We welcome you on this day. You know, we're still in season 1, but we are at episode 7 of the SSBD, and that would be the Sunday School Breakdown. So what I'd like for you to do, send a text to your friends and family, send them an email, give them a phone call, give them a Snapchat, a tweet if necessary, but just let them know that the Sunday School Breakdown is about to go down. So get your Bibles, pen, paper, Sunday School lesson plan. Let's get started. We're going to this week, as in last week, we're going to be in the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah, a major prophet. And Jeremiah, last week I introduced you to Jeremiah, but this week we're going to use the same slide because it's so prevalent today. Just imagine God had ordained Jeremiah before his parents conceived him. God had already ordained him and appointed him and commissioned him for a mission before he was born. Do you know how amazing that is? That means he had been not just called, but he was pre-called. Some of us I know have been recalled, but Jeremiah was actually, present company included, Jeremiah had been pre-called. So God had called him before his parents conceived him. So that means that Jeremiah had no choice or little choice to do what God asked him to do. God had already put a will for him, in him, before his birth, before his conception. So Jeremiah, authentic prophet, a true prophet, a godly prophet. So in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 22, we're going to start with verse 1. And it's just to read, "Thus saith the Lord." You see, Jeremiah is letting you know up front who's doing the talking. Jeremiah said, I'm a prophet of God, but I'm not God. So I'm one of God's spokesmen. God does the speaking through me, but you hear my voice, but you won't hear my words. Because the words you'll hear are actually godly words, God's own words that I'm delivering on his behalf. So, he said, "Thus saith the Lord." Then it goes on in verse 1b, it says, "Go down to the house of the king of Judah and speak there this word." So God telling Jeremiah, whatever location you're in right now, I need you to go downward to Judah. So that means Jeremiah obviously is north of Jerusalem. Now I brought with me today my pocket compass. Yeah, I got very big pockets. It'll fit. My pocket compass. So here, some of you guys are directional challenged, so let me help you out. If God is telling Jeremiah to go down, he must be on a north-south scale. Because if he go from south to this way, he would be going up. And for the ones that live in Atlanta, and if you're familiar with the airport is here on the south side of town. And if you start moving just a little bit, you have moved north. And just keep going, and once you get to west and east, we'll say that's I-20. So, very simple. If you want to go east and you know you're going north, Once you get to the interstate for the eastbound, you're going to make a right. So to make it simple, north and south is actually up and down. East and west are actually right and left. I know some of you are kind of directionally challenged. So here, Jeremiah must be somewhere. Let's break my compass. So Jeremiah must be somewhere in this area, or either where. He could be all the way up here. But if God say go down, all of this is downward. All of this is downward. He could be here, but he could go down. So he said go down to Judah. So God actually, that meant that God knew the exact position of Jeremiah. So that means that God knows exactly where we are, northwest, northeast, at all times. You see, he wasn't looking for Jeremiah. He actually knew where Jeremiah was, and he told Jeremiah which way to go. He said, go down. So to go down, you got to be going from north to south. You can't be this way. This is north, and this could be further south here. But Jeremiah said, he had told Jeremiah, go down to the house of Judah. And when he went there, he told them to give him a message. Once again, a prophet is a mouthpiece of God. And so he told him in verse 2 what to say. He said, and say, hear the word of the Lord. I'm going to go back to verse 1. Verse 1 say, thus saith the Lord. Verse 2 starts out by saying, hear the word of the Lord. Make no doubt about it. These are not Jeremiah's own words. These words are coming directly from God himself. And Jeremiah is the mere vessel to relate to the people what thus saith the Lord. Now you see that first part of verse 2 where it say hear? That doesn't just mean to hear in an audible way. That means to hear and to do. That means to hear and to act. That means to hear and to move. So God is telling him, hear the words of the Lord. And once you hear the words, you're not just supposed to just stand on the word, you stand in the word. But you're supposed to move and do something. In 2b, he's supposed to say, O King of Judah, that sitteth upon the throne of David, thou and thy servants and thy people that enter in by the gates. God is saying, all your people, you, the message was for the king, it was for the king's servants, for his people, and all the strangers that enter in through the gates. God said, I got a message for the whole territory. And God was telling them that these messages are good news for them if they could be obedient. Now we know in last week's lesson, God was getting ready to allow the Chaldeans to chastise them, to chasten his people. And so God was, now he's actually giving them an opportunity, kind of like a second chance. And we know that we are all receivers, beneficiaries of second chances. Yes. Present company included. So God is giving this word to Jeremiah. And then over in verse 3, it says, thus saith the Lord. Can I back up to verses 1 and 2 again? 1a read, thus saith the Lord. 2a says, and say, hear the word of the Lord. 3a says, thus saith the Lord. Jeremiah is making it plain that the words that you're hearing are not his own. Jeremiah is making it plain that what I'm about to say are not coming from me. They're coming through me. And I'm thinking that there must have been some false prophets in the area. Because Jeremiah is really going out of the way to make the people know, and the king, that he's not the one, he's the one delivering the message, but the message isn't his. So there must have been some false prophets out there that tell people what they wanted to hear. And Jeremiah is telling the people what they need to hear. And when you go before the king, you better have God behind you, because you could be basically killed for going into the king's court in the wrong way and at the wrong time. So when God sent him at the right time where the king would hear the word. Don't know whether he received it just yet, but he would definitely hear the word. And so Jeremiah was considered to be the weeping prophet for the mere fact that Jeremiah, he was his people. And he wore his sleeve on his heart, on his sleeve. He loved his people. But yet, he knew if God said he was going to put his people into captivity, it would happen. He knew if God said he was going to chastise his people, he knew it would happen. So Jeremiah felt the pain. So Jeremiah would weep about the situation of his people, because he had so much love, but he knew they was earning themselves punishment. And so with the false prophet, Jeremiah was saying, maybe they just tell folks what they want to hear, and it sounds good. They use the right pitch and the right articulation in their voices, and they could just sell anything. But it tore Jeremiah up to be able to tell his people these type of things, especially when he would tell them and they would turn their backs. So Jeremiah had a problem with this. This message was actually uncomfortable for Jeremiah to deliver. And you know what? Preachers, pastors, Sunday school teachers, evangelists, sometimes God gives you a word that's uncomfortable to you. In fact, that word touches your spirit. You feel convicted by that word. But if you don't deliver that word anyway, then you're being dishonest with God. I'll tell you a little situation. See, in these lesson plans, I don't get to pick the lesson. They just come up, and whatever comes up, I tend to try to do. But one time there was a lesson while we were physically back in the building that came up. And that lesson was whipping me. Oh my goodness, it was whipping me. So I reached out to Reverend Richardson, by the way, who happened to be our superintendent. And let me digress for 1 second. Reverend Richardson, I told him over a year ago what I would want to do about this video stuff. Would you believe he blessed me with this recorder that you see, this presentation screen? He gave that to me. He gave me the equipment free. I didn't ask for it. He just came in one Sunday morning and said, here you are, Murphy. I know you mentioned this to me, and I just happen to have this, and I'm gifting it to you. So St. Paul, when you see him, well, if you have his text message, just send him a text and say thanks. And then you can see it is getting used. So I wholeheartedly accept that gift. So back to the story. So I reached out to Reverend Richardson and just said, man, I'm going to be at church on Sunday morning, but could you possibly do the Sunday school lesson? And he had agreed early in the week. I thought I was giving him plenty of time to study just in case he needs to read and catch up on things. But then about that Saturday night, he got called into work. And you know what I said? I looked up to heaven and I told God, you got a sense of humor. You knew I was trying to avoid this lesson because this lesson was whipping me myself. I was uncomfortable. But you made sure that I was going to teach this lesson, not just for them, but for me as well. So preachers and pastors, when they teach certain things, they preach on a certain subject, it's convicting them as well. So don't think they're just preaching at you. God is preaching and teaching to them at the same time. Yes, we teachers, we follow the same rules as everybody else. Preachers follow the same rules as everybody else. So Jeremiah, this lesson was uncomfortable for him. And so he didn't want to bring it in. But God told him, and so he did what thus said the Lord. His obedience made him carry the lesson on through. And so he was telling them. And so Jeremiah was basically saying in verse 3, thus says the Lord, execute ye judgment and righteousness. He said execute, which means to do something, to bring into action, put into motion, to execute judgment. That means fair play and righteousness. Treat people fairly based on what God would want them to, the way God would want them to be treated. Be kind to people. Treat your brothers. Love your neighbors as yourselves. When somebody go into the courthouse and you got a friend that you know and you got a stranger there, just don't lean towards the way of your friend because you know him. Lean towards the truth, regardless of which way the pendulum swings. If it swings to your stranger, then let it be so. But if it swings towards the truth, that's all you're concerned about. You can't see friend over justice. God doesn't want that. So he say, be just and righteous. So you got to treat people right. And so then it goes on in verse 3 and say, and deliver. So once you execute judgment and righteousness, you still got work to do. It says, deliver the spoil out of the hand of the oppressor. And do no wrong. Do no violence to the stranger, to the fatherless, to the widows. Neither shed innocent blood in this place. God is telling you, just treat people right. Now the fatherless, the widows, the orphans, the innocent, those are the people that have, say, certain type of weakness. The fatherless are one that they don't have a breadwinner in the house. So God said, treat them fairly. You know, we say so many times, poor people don't stand a chance in the judicial system. But God said, in God's system, it doesn't matter who you are. Judge based on righteousness. Treat people right. Treat people fairly, regardless of status, race, education, income, gender, whatever, treat people right. God said himself, do no wrong to these people. Right? Do no violence. Treat people right. God make it sound so simple. And it is. It just sometimes greed gets in the way. And we won't do what thus says the Lord. Greed and disobedience creates a lot of problems. The stranger, somebody that's coming to town, don't know where they're going. Don't take the advantage of those people. Help a person if you can. And God said, just treat them right. Spike Lee said, just do the right thing. In verse 4, it say, for if you do this thing, what thing is that? Oh, the things are, do no wrong, do no violence, show righteousness, and judge with the right judge with justice. That's the thing. For if, verse 4, for if ye do this thing, then there shall enter in by the gates of the house kings sitting upon the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, he and his servants and his people. God said, your lineage would last for a long time. Your reign will last for a long time. People will be coming in, the kings will be coming in on their chariots, and people will be coming in, and the city and the town of Judah and Jerusalem would be just flourishing. It'll get, in other words, God said it would be blessed because of your obedience. It would be blessed. You see this little statement in verse 4 where it says, sitting upon the throne of David? Now, David been dead for over 400 years. Why is he still being referenced here in this lesson? You know, David was the standard for kings. David set the standard. Have you guys heard, and I know you have, David was after God's own heart. Have you really looked to see what that means? What does that mean? We hear people quote that little part of the scripture all the time. David was after God's own heart. What does that really mean? Let's move to my next slide. If you go to Acts chapter 13, verse 22. If you can see it here, you're definitely welcome to. Here's what it means. In verse 22, it says, and when he had removed him, when God had removed Saul, he raised up unto them David to be their king. God replaces Saul with David. He said, and to whom also he gave their testimony, and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse. You see, most people thought that David said this, that he was after God's own heart. But no. God said it himself. And if God said it, we know it's the truth, right? God said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. Still, what does that mean? To be after God's own heart. What did David do that other people haven't done? The other kings didn't do. Because here, they still using David as the standard for a king for Israel. I think back in verse 2 they used him as well. Yeah, verse 2b, it said, that sitteth upon the throne of David. David still being used as the anchor, as the model for kings for Israel. That last part, the very last clause in white, which shall fulfill all my will. This is God speaking. This verse is from God himself. And say that and David was after my own heart, which shall fulfill all my will. This is why God said David was after his own heart. To paraphrase that last clause, God was saying that David would do whatever I wanted David to do. That's a testimony. But I think the word testimony is actually in the verse. Yes. To whom also he gave that testimony and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse. So God testified on David's behalf that David is after my own heart. Why? Because he would do whatever I asked him to do. David had obedience to God. But hold on. I know what you're saying. David did some things. Yes, David did some things for David. But when God asked David to do things for him, David did them. Now think about us. We do things for ourselves. Yes, we do use our own wills. But when God asks us to do things for him, why are we doing things for ourselves? Do we find the time to do things for God? And there lies the difference. Some of us will say yes, Some of us will say sometimes. Some will say, most of the time. Some will say, I try. I try. I do. I try. But David, God testified on his behalf and said that David would do, David shall fulfill, what's the word all mean? All means all my will. So yet God knew that David was going to be a sinner. Yeah. But while David was doing stuff for David, if God called David to do anything for him, David did it. For that reason alone, David was a man after God's own heart. So next time you hear that verse quoted, understand that David didn't say it. David wasn't bragging on David. God was bragging on David. That's a breakdown moment for you. Yes. So when you hear that, just remember that. This is why David had obedience to God. Even though David was in the flesh. A man that did fleshly and manly things. But yet God said, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to chastise you just like the rest. But I'm going to let your kingdom last forever. That's why now we're still talking about kings following them behind David's footsteps in this particular lesson. Shall we move on? Excuse me one moment. Excuse me. Verse 5. Now verse 5 says, but if ye not hear these words. Wait a minute, where's my slide? Last week, verse 5 is the crossroad. Verse 4 said, if you do these things, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to allow kings to sit on the throne of David for a very long time. People could be riding in and out on the chariots. The city would flourish. The economy would be strong. But if you don't do my will, I'm going to break your economy. I'm going to make people sick. I'm going to send a pestilence. And you're going to call it COVID times. Oh, wait a minute. That's not in the book. That's not the Israelite. That's for the we are likes. Okay. But God said, so at the crossroad, they got to make a decision, right? God said, but if you would not hear these words, that means if you go the other direction, if you take the roads that easy, instead of the one that's the high road, then you're going to have problems. And God said, if you not hear these words, then I swear by myself. A few weeks ago, I said one of my top 10 verses I had read was when God said that once his people come back holy and they repented of their sins and that they basically throw themselves at his mercy and come back willfully to him, he's going to receive them and he will forgive them of their sins. And God said, I will sing. That's one of my verses now. That's in the top 10. But this verse right here, verse 5, God said, I will swear by myself. You know, when you were young, some of you may be, and we were thinking we were about grown, we was out with our friends, and we would swear. And we would swear, and we would make people swear. If you tell them you were going to do something, we would tell them, swear on your grandmother's, or swear on your mother's. And then sometime we would get bold and we would say, swear to God and hope to die. That means that you're swearing on somebody that has more authority and that somebody that has a better reputation than you. Somebody that has a better word than yours. Your mother, your grandmother, and of course, God. Well, but God is God, so who God gonna swear on? He is God. Who is higher than God? God said there's nobody greater. So God said, I have to swear on my own self. Man, I tell you what, that's got to be one of the coolest verses. Can you imagine God but God saying, I swear on myself. That's incredible. Let me read this other part of verse 5, then we're going to dissect this a little bit more. It says, I swear by myself, saith the Lord, that the house shall be a desolation. God saying, but if you choose the wrong road, this house, which means the house of Judah, shall be a desolation. That means it's going to be void, null and void. It's going to be barren. It's going to be empty. But God said it would be fruitful. People coming in and out, doing different things, the economy good. But he said, but if you don't hear my words, it's going to go the other direction. So we got to choose our path properly. This is for the Israelites. And yes, we are lights as well. We have to choose our paths wisely. But I said I was going to try to modernize this lesson a little bit. So I'm going to digress here for a moment, okay? Stay with me. Look at this picture. Tell me what you see. Look at the picture and look at the words and tell me what's wrong with it. Go ahead. I'll wait. I need to. Go ahead. What's wrong with that picture? You know, right now, ESPN is doing a series on Michael Jordan, and they're calling it the GOAT. The GOAT simply means that the greatest of all times. Now, here we have two GOATs. We have the GOAT and the GOAT. Now, here's the problem that I see with this picture. Each GOAT, Michael Jordan and the late, great Muhammad Ali, they're GOATs in each of their own fields. So they're not the GOAT, they are a GOAT. Because look, if I say Serena Williams is the GOAT of tennis, then I say that young lady Simone Biles, that's her name, Biles. She used to go a gymnastic. Oh, she's bad. So if all of them are the GOAT, then they are a GOAT and not the GOAT. You feel me? That's what I see wrong with it. You can't have the GOAT, because they're each GOATs in each one of their territory. But Michael Jordan is not the GOAT of boxing, and Muhammad Ali is not the GOAT of basketball. So they are both a GOAT. A GOAT means there are others. The GOAT means that's only one. You guys know where I'm going with this? That's only one GOAT. And so, let me ask you this. When I asked you to tell me what was wrong with this picture, how many of you said, I want to see two black men and a whole lot of non-black people? You guys are wrong. I said look at the words as well. Yeah. But yes, so they are a GOAT, the greatest of all time for that particular sport. And see, with Michael Jordan, some may say that somebody else could be in that position. So they are a GOAT. Let's move on. But I'm going to tell you who the GOAT is. Look at verse 5. It was so hot for me, I had to put it on the screen so we could dissect this, or should I say, break it down properly. But if ye will not hear these words, God said, I swear by myself. God said, I don't need to swear on anybody else because I am the GOAT. I am the greatest of all time. Right? God saying, see, I am the Alpha and I am the Omega. Right? God said that I'm the lily of the valley. I'm the bright and morning star. God say, I put my confidence in myself. I put my trust in me. I put my faith in me. God said, I can't depend on anybody else. I can depend on me. So God said, I swear by my own self because there's nobody greater. So God is the greatest of all time. He is the GOAT. You can't say a GOAT when it comes to God because there is no one else greater. God is. Could you imagine that? How cool it must be that you can swear by your own self because there's nobody else to swear above you. All right, God is the GOAT. Let me give you another case. In Genesis 22:16, God said, and said, by myself I have sworn, says the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son. Here's the situation. You got to remember Abraham. God had asked Abraham to bring his son Isaac. At the time, he only had one son. He told him, bring Isaac, and I want you to sacrifice Isaac unto me. So God went there, they had wood, Abraham was going to build an altar, and he was going to make Isaac a sacrifice. And God said, because you have done this, and were willing to go through the steps to sacrifice your son, your only son, I'm going to bless you. I'm not just going to bless you, I'm going to bless you so many times over, multiple times. And God said, I swear not on anything else, not on anybody else, but by myself have I sworn. That's the GOAT. That's the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time. One more example, then we'll keep moving. And what God said. Look at what this GOAT said. Listen to what this greatest of all time said. In the beginning. Who else said that? Who else can say that? The GOAT can say, in the beginning. The GOAT, the greatest of all time, created the heaven and the earth. Who else can say that? As the song said, there's no one greater. God himself created the heaven and the earth. So God is the, not a, he is the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time. God is the GOAT. Now we know that means the greatest of all times. And that totally fits God. But look at that, the GOAT. That could also mean what? Oh, I drew a blank. Here we go. That can mean God over all things. He is the God over all things. Isn't that right? That would make him the GOAT. And if you move that letter around the two vowels, basically, you would swap and have G-A-O-T. You know, the old song that he may not come when you want him, but he would be a God always on time. Right. Or we could say it this way. We could say God always, God on, oh yes, God on anointed and appointed time. God will show up as on his own appointed and anointed time. He is the GOAT. He is the greatest. Old lesson, just trying to freshen it up for you just a little bit. God is the GOAT. So when we talk about the GOAT, we're talking about our earthly people that we could see and we could do different things, but they are not the GOAT. Just understand they are a GOAT. Our Lord and Savior. Yes. Yes. He is the greatest of all time. The God over all things. Okay, I'm done. Okay, I'm done with it. Let's move on. Let's move on. I can stay on that all day long. I wish we could just end the lesson here. Slide from last week. But let's move on to verse 6. And I just leave that up there. Verse 6. For thus saith the Lord unto the king's house of Judah, Thou art Gilead unto me, and the head of Lebanon. Yet surely I will make thee a wilderness and cities which are inhabited. God say, you think you've been physically oppressed now. You think you're going through some mental depressions now. But I will take that physical and the mental and I will mess with your pocketbooks and cause you to have a financial recession. So God said, I will make the house of Lebanon and thou art Gilead. That means that's plentiful. Those were places where they had big, strong forests. And they had woods that the kings would take the wood from these cedar trees and they would build houses and they would build their kingdoms and they would use to build palaces. But God said, I will make these cities which are not inhabited, he would take those things from you. God said, I sure will make thee a wilderness. God said, though the trees and the forest, that means plenty. But God said, I will make them wilderness. I will take what I have given you. We know the Lord giveth, and as painful as it is, sometimes the Lord taketh away. Verse 7, and I will prepare destroyers against thee, every one with his weapons, and they shall cut down thy choice cedars and cast them into the fire. God said, I will destroy it all. I gave it to you, but I will burn it. I will bring about enemies against you and destroyers, and they will take the things that I gave you, and then I will allow them to destroy it. And you just have to watch. God's talking to the Israelites. God talking about the Israelites. You know, pandemically speaking, that during these COVID times, some of us are feeling some physical oppression. And we stay in that state too long, mental depression, and we're hearing things going on with our economy, financial recession. So yeah, he's talking to the Israelites, and he's also talking to the we-alites. In verse 8, and many nations shall pass this city, and they shall say every man to his neighbor, wherefore hath the Lord done thus unto this great city? You see, the city of Jerusalem and the area of Judah, that was what God chosen people, actually Samaria and Israel as well. Those were God's chosen people. And they were supposed to be a model for the other nations. The other nation was supposed to see their God and say, oh, I want to join them. Because their God is a wonderful God. He looks after them. That God gave them houses that they didn't build. They're eating grapes and drinking wines that they didn't plant. They didn't plant the grapes for the wine. But their God is allowing them to eat vegetables and fruits that they didn't plant. They're pulling from gardens that they didn't plow. And God, they're saying, I want to serve that God. That God is truthful. That God loves his people. But the people of Jerusalem, the people of Judah they were letting God down. And so now God wanted to get the attention of the other people. He wanted to get their attention in a positive way. But verse 8 said, the other nations shall pass by this city, Jerusalem, and they're going to say, and they shall say, every man to his neighbor, wherefore has the Lord done this unto this great city? So you see, God is getting their attention. They are recognizing that something going on. And they're just wondering why the Lord has allowed this to happen. So what they're seeing is the Lord punishing his people. So God is getting their attention in a negative way. But he's showing them his power. He's showing them his power. And so by the Israelites getting punished, this model nation that's failing in that area, God is chastising. Now, if God would chastise his own chosen people, yeah, you do know that we are his chosen people as well. You do know when Jesus got on that cross and he closed his eyes and gave up his life and died, he just didn't die for the Israelites. He died for the Wheelites as well. Verse 9. And so they shall answer, because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord their God, and worship other gods and serve them. That's why the city now is desolate. Because God punished them, because they went chasing after other gods and served those gods. And God said, where were those other gods when you were crying in the wilderness? When you wanted to be set free from captivity over in Egypt, where were these gods? I brought you out. And now you're giving them the love and respect that God himself had earned. And God said, I'm a jealous God. So they're reaping what they have sown. And so instead of God getting their attention and for them being a model city, a model nation, the attention is being received for the fact that God is chastising them for being the different. We have to be careful. Verse 10. Weep ye not for the dead, neither bemoan him, but weep sore for him that goeth away, for he shall return no more, nor see his native country. We talked about two kings here. In 10a, we're talking about the king Josiah. God is going to send him away. He's going to be killed in battle. And so God is going to say, don't weep for him, because see, it's like what we do when we have a homegoing service for someone that we know is in the Lord. We say, yeah, we got to weep for them for a moment, but we know they're in a better place. So King Josiah was trying to fix things, trying to get on the right path with God. So God said, don't weep for him, weep not for the dead, neither bemoan him, because he's in a better place now. But his son, 10b, he said, but weep sore for him that goeth away, for he shall return no more, nor see his native country. His son, Shalom, now he was crooked. Oh, he was turning the people so much against God. He took them in such a negative direction. God punished him. He moved them out. And he's going to be beaten, chastised, and eventually killed. But God said, don't weep for him. God said, yeah, you can weep for him, because he's done. There's no after for him. Where 10a, Josiah will have an afterlife, everlasting life. 10b, his son Shalom will not. God, that's our lesson for today. We're going to wrap this up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Verse 5. Verse 5, we're going to close with verse 5. Just think about it, guys. God is going to swear on God. There's no one greater. I swear by myself, saith the Lord. Then Exodus 3 and 14. I'm proving my case here. God said, I am. That I am. He was talking to Moses, tell the people of Israel, when they were being set free from Egypt, just tell them that I am said it. I am that I am. Hashtag. The God over all things. Hashtag the GOAT. I'm done. Thank you so much for the Sunday School breakdown. I appreciate you tuning in. Hope you have a good evening, good day, a good rest of your week. I do appreciate it and I love you dearly and severely. I am Wilman Murphy. I'm a Sunday school teacher, St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church. Where are we? We're at 2870 Helen Drive, East Point, Georgia 30344. Our senior pastor, Reverend Dr. Clayton Eugene Taylor Sr. Our co-pastor, the Reverend Christopher E. Taylor Sr. You know who I am? You know who they are? You know where we are. Come by and see us sometime. This has been the Sunday School Breakdown. And I thank you so much. You know, typically before I go to the next lesson to show you what next week's lesson would be, I will blow up the last screen. I can't do that. That's the GOAT. That's the God of all time. I can't do that. So instead of blowing it up, I'm going to applaud that screen. Let it fly away. Yes. Here's next week's lesson. Me and my gadgets, I know I love them. Next week's lesson. The book of Hosea. A monoprophet. That's about 17 verses. So we'll have to work that out. Thank you so much, guys. I do appreciate it. I love you dearly and severely. Until next time, thank you.